It's 9 minutes to 9 on the Breakfast Show. The Queen will open the new session of Parliament today by announcing the government's agenda for the coming year. And as always, it will be a day of tradition.
Bodyguard, by the centre, slow march!
Mr. Speaker, the Queen commands this honourable House to attend Her Majesty immediately in the House of Peers.
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, my government's legislative programme will focus on economic growth, justice and constitutional reform.
Well, that was last year. This year, around 12 bills are expected, including one restricting access to social housing and healthcare for those entering Britain, and another paving the way for the next step of the development of the HS2 train line, which of course cuts through Coventry and Warwickshire, amongst other parts of the UK. Ben Harris-Quinney is the chairman of the Bow Group, Britain's oldest conservative think tank, and joins us on the show. Morning, Ben.
Morning.
The interesting one, and a lot of people are speculating about this idea of restricting housing and healthcare for those coming into the UK. And suggesting that it could be a knee-jerk reaction to the local elections recently, and the fact that UKIP did do so well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's certainly not the case, that it's a knee-jerk reaction, because as with anything in the Queen's speech this year, particularly because the government is in coalition, all of the legislation that's going to be in the next term of Parliament and announced in the Queen's speech will have been agreed considerably in advance and will have been prepared by the relevant ministries. So all of these policies that will be announced at the Queen's speech will have been prepared a long way in advance of the local election results. But in terms of the immigration bill, which I think is going to be the centrepiece really of this year's Queen's speech, I think that the way that that's being approached by the government is to say that although there is very little that the government can do about immigration, especially from within the European Union, one of the ways they're tackling that is from a different angle and saying, okay, well, maybe we can't stop these people coming in, but we can restrict the provisions of services that the United Kingdom is offering to them. And there are precedents of that across Europe actually now, with, I think the news came out yesterday that a number of British citizens in Spain were being refused healthcare because they hadn't been in Spain, hadn't been contributing to their economy for long enough. So it's essentially a way of tackling the immigration problem and getting around the issue of EU immigration, which on the basis of our relationship with the European Union, we can't actually prevent.
There's also a look at crime and antisocial behaviour and offender rehabilitation as well. That's featuring quite heavily in the bill, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that will be as significant, but I think a toughening stance on crime and particularly young offending will feature, yeah.
Why do you say that won't be particularly significant then? Because, they're looking the Crime and Antisocial Behaviour Bill is looking at legislation for dangerous dogs and what happens if it bites a postal worker and all those kind of things. And the rehabilitation one is all around community punishments, which, of course, are really quite in vogue at the moment, aren't they? Why do you think it won't be particularly a huge thing then?
I think, if you like, the way the government will spin this is to put the immigration bill at the centre, and possibly also the increase in the pensions provision as well. Dangerous dogs bills and that sort of thing, I think, will be in there. Probably not as high on the agenda, but the legislation on that is not particularly significant, so it probably won't take up as much significance in the bill as I say, things like immigration.
Ben, thanks for your time this morning. Ben Harris-Quinney there, who's chairman of the Bow Group, Britain's oldest conservative think tank, with his thoughts, and of course more on that throughout the day here on BBC Commentary in Warwickshire. And Phil Upton with you from 4 o'clock this afternoon. He'll be having a look at some of the detail of what's been announced.